Okay, we are going to show the process of meiosis. Meiosis is a process by which sex cells or gamete cells are produced. A gamete cell might be a sperm cell, it might be an egg cell, depends on whether you're female or male. So this is happening in the ovaries or the testicles. To start off with, meiosis starts off in interphase. Interphase cell of meiosis, we see the base number of chromosomes there. I got a chromosome from mom and a chromosome from dad for each of the traits, or what we call 2 chromosomes per trait. That state is what we call diploid. The diploid cell in interphase will have DNA replicate, so we'll get identical strands of DNA. That moves us into prophase. In prophase, the nucleus, or prophase 1, the nucleus disappears. The DNA coils up to form chromatids, and now we can see them. Chromatids find their sister chromatid and pair up to form chromosomes. Chromosomes are held together by a centromere. The homologous chromosomes then pair up to form tetrads. So in our example, we have 2 tetrads. The tetrads are aligned by their centromeres. The last thing that we're going to do in prophase 1 is the centrioles will appear and move to the poles. Metaphase 1 then is where the tetrads line up along the center of the cell and the spindle fibers appear. That leads us into anaphase number 1. Anaphase number 1, the spindle fibers pull the chromosomes to the centrioles. So they are separated to the ends of the cells. This is the phase where we see genetic shuffling happen because the orange and the blue could have switched spots. Anaphase leads us into telophase. In telophase, we see a nucleus reappear here and a nucleus reappear here. The cell then pinches in and splits, and that's called cytokinesis. At this point in time, we are done with meiosis 1, and now we have 2 cells that are going to go into meiosis 2. As we start meiosis 2, we jump right into prophase 2. In prophase 2, we see 2 things happen. The nucleus disappears in each of the cells, and the centrioles appear and move to the poles. Now we move into metaphase number 2, and the chromosomes line up across the middle of each of the cells. The spindle fibers appear on each of the cells. As we move from metaphase number 2, we move into anaphase number 2, and the chromosomes get pulled apart by the spindle fibers, and they gather at the centrioles. Finally, we have telophase 2, and the nucleus reappears around each of the groups of chromosomes. And we have cytokinesis in each of the cells, and we end up splitting the cells. So we have, at the end of this, we have 4 cells. Now, unlike in mitosis, where we have identical cells, these are not identical to the first cell. Notice that the chromosomes have been reduced in half. Now we only have 1 chromosome for each of our traits, 1 chromosome, say for instance for hair color, 1 chromosome for eye color. That state is called haploid. So all 4 of these cells are called haploid cells, or haploid gamete cells. In males, these would be called sperm cells. The sperm is the male gamete, and in the sperm cells they're really, really small. They have a tail to swim, and they're all able to produce offspring. Now, if this was a female, the female cell would look a little or the female cells at the end would look a little different. One of these cells would have gotten all the cell parts and become really, really, really big. The rest of these cells would have been really small. They still would have gone through meiosis and we would see these cells produced, and they would still be haploid, except for when all the cell parts get shifted into one. This big cell is going to be our egg cell. These three are not going to be used to reproduce for offspring, but they are going to be essential to the female chemistry. We call these polar bodies. We use meiosis to get offspring. So these cells, these egg cells and these sperm cells are going to be important. Now, how do we get offspring from these cells? If we take, for instance, this is our egg cell, the sperm cell would come swimming in, and humans meet up with this egg cell. Here's my sperm. Meet up with the egg cell, and then once it's there, it works its way in and eventually breaks through the cell membrane of the egg cell, and the nucleuses then are fused together. Notice that a haploid cell plus a haploid cell equals back to the diploid form. 2 chromosomes for each of the traits, so we call that diploid. Haploid plus haploid gives me diploid. Now this cell is able to undergo mitosis to grow and develop into a new offspring.